We need to get into this interview now. The Section 59 investigation panel looking into allegations of racial discrimination has found that some medical aid schemes practiced unfair racial discrimination in their investigations into fraud, waste and abuse by certain black healthcare providers. The three-member panel, set up in 2019, released its final report in Pretoria yesterday. To discuss the report, we are now joined by Health Minister Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi. Minister, thank you as always for being so generous with your time and for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Leanne. Thank you to the listeners and viewers.
To remind our viewers, I mean, this dates back to 2019, where there were allegations made that black healthcare practitioners faced unfair scrutiny and fraud investigations by administrators. And I know that we focused a lot on it as a program. How bad was the discrimination?
Well, according to the final report presented by the chairperson of the Section 59 committee, Advocate Temberger Ngaitobi, it was quite bad. In 2019, Leanne, when I was in health for the first time, the black practitioners brought this complaint to myself and the Council of Medical Aid Scheme, because the Council of Medical Aid Scheme is a statutory body established to regulate medical aids. I gave the issue to them, and after looking at it, they made a recommendation to me that I must put up an investigative panel in terms of Section 59 of the Medical Schemes Act. And that committee sat and started doing its work. It was giving a report yesterday. Yes, as you say, Leanne, it was quite bad because they've been able to prove, according to them, beyond doubt, that yes, there was discrimination against black practitioners. Black here meaning Africans, Indians, and coloreds, in the investigation of fraud, wastage, and abuse. And I must emphasize, they are not saying, and also I am not saying fraud and abuse and wastage must not be investigated. But when it is done racially, it is actually suspicious. It's worrying, actually, much more worrying. Especially, Leanne, if you look at, I saw the statement yesterday from the Board of Healthcare Funders representing medical schemes, who rejected the report and strongly say the report doesn't make sense. It wants to encourage fraud, wastage, and abuse. Now, if I give you figures, you'll understand why that statement doesn't make sense. Let me give you the figures of 2022. The medical schemes in 2022 collected a total of 218.4 billion. Out of that 218.4 billion, the GPs, who are the victims here, who are the ones mostly investigated, GPs, both black and white, got only 5% of that amount.
Sure.
So if yes, they got only 5% of the total. Even if you go back in 2010, medical schemes collected 84.7 billion. At that time, the GPs got 7.3%. Now, they've actually gone dramatically down. Now, if you concentrate on them and say you are fighting fraud and corruption and not putting, not concentrating on the 95% who are responsible for most of your expenditure, it becomes very funny. It's an opposite of what Advocate Ngaitobi and his team have done. They concentrated on three main medical schemes, which constitute 80% of the total membership of medical aids. That makes sense statistically. This particular one, which they were investigating, as I'm saying, most of the Pretoria GPs, it doesn't make sense to me at all.
Indeed. I mean, I know I've got Discovery Health Med Scheme and others. I'm not sure which is the third one that we're speaking to.
Is Discovery Health, is GEMS.
GEMS as well.
Yeah, which embarrassingly is a government medical scheme for public servants. Yes.
That is
the third one. Yeah, the third one is Med Scheme.
Okay. Minister, what are the next steps? What happens now? You've got the documents. Obviously, you've got to go through them, study them. But what is the next step in this whole process?
There are recommendations to three groups of people. One, recommendations to the medical schemes themselves. If they want to repent, they are giving them a leeway or what they need to do in order to avoid what they've been accused of. Secondly, is to the Council of Medical Schemes as a regulatory body. And lastly, is to me as a legislator that we need to look at the legislation. The Medical Schemes Act passed in 1998. We need to look at it whether it does not give loopholes that makes this type of behavior very easy.
Would you look at criminal civil action to be considered against these schemes, knowing after these investigations fully well that they engaged in racial profiling under the guise of fraud investigations?
Advocate Nkoetobi emphasized yesterday and that they were not a court of law. They were just finding facts. They were not even investigators. They were just trying to find crime investigators, they were just trying to find facts. They put them in front of us. In my understanding, but I still have to get legal advice about it.
Okay.
But the little I understand is that the individuals, practitioners who have been wronged can and litigate, because I understand some of them have lost their practices when they stop paying them, because one of the modus operandi was to go to a practitioner and say, we have investigated you. Over the past 3 years, we've been doing fraud. You owe us this much. Please sign an acceptance, an acknowledgement of debt. You sign that you owe the medical scheme maybe 2 million or 3 million, which you are never going to be able to pay, then you are out. And they tell you, if you don't sign the acknowledgement of debt, then we are not going to pay you. Now, if you are a practitioner, and you cannot see people who are on medical schemes, or you charge them cash when they are on medical schemes, they'll go away from you and your practice will close. And I understand their practice that they've closed in that way.
Yeah.
So my little understanding is that we don't have any local standard to take any criminal action on their behalf. They need to do civil, they need to get into a civil action themselves.
So I suppose the question would be is that they have the right to do that, but would government consider supporting this legal action? I mean, especially if you're looking at an entity like GEMS being accused of being involved in all of this as well.
If they ask us of any particular help, of course,
okay,
like information, like the information I've just given you, etc., it's our job, obviously, to do so, especially the Council of Medical Schemes, which is responsible. It's a statutory body established by the state to take care of medical schemes in the form of regulation or whatever help they can give. So whatever help they want. But all I'm saying is that if there have to be any legal action, it must be done by the victims themselves, because they've got a local standard.
Yeah. Minister, certainly I imagine this opens up a can of worms. And my question to you is, do you believe the situation warrants a broader inquiry into perhaps discrimination within South Africa's entire private healthcare system beyond just Section 59?
We have done enough investigations now, Leanne. Okay. Remember, one of the investigations that was very big in private healthcare was the health market inquiry, chaired by a former Chief Justice Ngobu. We are busy with it. Then there's come this Section 59. Then we've got the National Health Act, NHI Act, which is trying to correct some of these things, but which is in court, as you know. 6 entities have taken it to court. We are going to combine all those, the health market inquiry, the NHI Act, the findings of this Section 59, and see if we can come with a comprehensive change rather than piecemeal changes. But I personally don't think we need any further investigations. Yeah. We have got enough information in our hands.
Well, Minister, thank you. I know we're going to watch this one very closely. This is a big finding, and certainly one that affects a lot of people, and particularly those doctors involved in this that have had to subsequently close their practices because of this. And this is where we watch legal action from them if it does in fact take place. Minister, thank you. Thank you so much. We will touch base and see what happens after you've discussed this further, studied it further, and looked at the legal repercussions of this. That's our Health Minister, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, sharing insights on the recently released, in fact yesterday, Section 59 final report.